Hello, Moses here. Going to be adding to the discussion here. Let's see here. Try to get this set up. Just get there we go. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no. Everyone else is saying yes, so I'll be the devil's advocate. No, they don't need. Let's see here. Where is it? They don't necessarily need different kinds of knowledge. I do agree with the skills part that other people have posted, but as for knowledge, they don't necessarily need it, although it can help. I liked the point that Josh made regarding his ESP teaching in avionics, right? He's not teaching them to fly. He's teaching them English in regards to aviation, right? So this kind of, I'm going to try to explain this, starting off with the meaning of the word special in ESP, which is found in, I believe the article is Gatehouse. Yeah, Gatehouse, that's it. Okay, sorry. Got multiple windows here. And basically, there's the differentiation, looking at special language and specialized aim. So what is the special in ESP? And I think Gates mentioned cites Mackay and Mountford, stating that the only practical way in which we can understand the notion of a special language is as a restricted repertoire of words and expressions selected from the whole language, because the restricted repertoire conveys every requirement within a well-defined text, yada, yada, yada. So on the other hand, she mentions that the specialized aim refers to the purpose for which learners learn a language, not the nature of the language they learn. And I found that pretty significant. And then she goes on to say, consequently, the focus of the word special in ESP ought to be on the purpose for which learners learn, and not on the specific jargon or registers they learn. So I saw in the discussion, a lot of people were saying that, we need to be familiar with the content that you're dealing with in ESP or EAP, such as specific jargon. But here she's stating that we're not teachers of that specific subject, right? The language teacher is teaching language, and the content teacher teaches the content. She actually says in the article here, let's see here, and it's a quote, I quote in Gates' article, "What is more, it was highly unreasonable to assume that the content instructor would take on the role of the ESL instructor." So it goes vice versa. I agree that the ESL instructor shouldn't really be instructing the content per se, and the content instructor shouldn't really be doing the ESL instructor's job. However, there are instances where there's only an ESL instructor, which then I do agree that you will need to probably brush up on the knowledge more. So anyways, going back to that, basically, she also mentions here that it's essential, in the article, Gates mentions that it's essential for these learners in learning how to access information in a new culture. So again, this goes back to the students generally know the material. They know, as Josh in his job, he's dealing with pilots, or that's their job. So I do business English lessons as well. So often they know the material, but they have difficulty producing it in in the L2 language. So I feel that I don't need, for example, I don't really know much about business. However, I don't think it's my job for me to specifically have a great depth of knowledge in business to do business lessons in my context in Japan, teaching them English. In fact, actually, I've learned a lot of business from them, which is quite interesting. So, and she also mentions here in the article that there's a wealth of information on academic and general language skills that you can use when you're doing ESP or EAP. So you don't necessarily need to learn or gain necessarily external knowledge or skills per se. She mentions in this is regarding the health sciences course she was doing, that she quote, and I quote, I simply opted to identify academic skills that were transferable to most health science occupational settings. Right? So basically, she didn't. She looked at what are some academic skills that she already knows as a general English teacher, as an ESL instructor, and how are those applied in the medical health field, right? So this doesn't necessarily require a whole bunch of new knowledge on the ESL teacher's part. So, and I know this is probably a long video, sorry. So the learners, let's see here. Yeah, so that pretty much is the main point that I wanted to drive forward. She, in her article, she also mentions that in her case with the health sciences, that a lot of the students already knew Greco-Latino terminology, not Latino, Latino, sorry, terminology. Sorry, that was kind of funny. Anyways, and that basically, and I like how she ends the article. Moreover, much more time would be spent on communication for the workplace. In this way, the students would be afforded ample opportunity to integrate and practice the restricted repertoire acquired in content lectures and everyday language acquired in the language classes. So again, this goes back to the fact that they know their meaning, but they have difficulty producing it, and that's what ESP teachers, we should be focusing on the language and not so much on the content. And on that note, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.